Good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that video showing the various successes of the member states who have taken part, especially through the Gender Action Programme. We're now moving into our first panel session for this conference. And as a reminder, if you have questions, please post them in the questions box in the live discussion tab of the chat function on your screen. This session is entitled New Opportunities for Equality and Inclusion in the Era. And we have 4 panelists here with us today who will be talking about a range of things. They will be addressing kind of recent developments at the national level in their member state in gender equality around research and innovation. And if relevant, they'll also be commenting about the role of gender equality policies and plans in their national policy evolution. They will reflect on what they consider to be the new topics, needs and challenges where policy attention needs to be given either at the member state or the European Union level. And finally, discuss the kind of benefits about policy coordination and nutrient change at the EU level around gender equality. I'm very pleased this morning to introduce our 4 speakers. We have Dia Anagnostou from the Hellenic Foundation for European and Foreign Policies in Greece. We have Bízková, Research, Innovation and Development Council of the Czech Republic. Teresa Riesgo, who is the Secretary General of Innovation from the Ministry of Science and Innovation from Spain. And Kathleen Vercauteren, Head of Department of University and Society from the University of Antwerp in Belgium, Flanders. Welcome to all of you. I'm going to start by asking Teresa to kind of kick off the discussion and talk about perhaps you introduce kind of your recent developments at the member state level from Spain.
Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you very much for to Gender Action for inviting us in this session that is interesting and very challenging. Yeah. So I will start by talking about the gender equality structures that we have implemented in the area of research and innovation, because I have to say that in the last years, Spain has taken a big step forward to address these topics. First of all, and very much thanks to projects like this one that are very relevant for us. In particular, we have started in January 2019. We started with an observatory for gender equality in a Spanish system of science and innovation. We started as I said, in January 2019, and now we have some working groups that we have changed a little bit the structure in November 2020, and yesterday we had a meeting of this observatory. So it was yesterday afternoon. It was chaired by our Minister of Science and Innovation. The observatory is an interministerial body that has the responsibility of analyzing, monitoring, and measuring impacts of the situation of women in the field of research, development, and innovation. As well, of course, we want to measure, we want to analyze, but of course, what we want to do is to propose new policies, and also, of course, advise and monitor the implementation of the measures and the public policies that we are setting up in the system. The observatory includes the representation of the main agents of the Spanish system, in research, technology, and innovation, including the civil society. So it's not only a question of the government, but also a question of the civil society. There are gender experts, and also, of course, the agents of the research and innovation system. On one hand, the funding agencies, and also the research entities like the SIG or the universities, and so on and so forth. The program that we have is very ambitious in this observatory, and we want to have an impact on the different objectives of the European Commission regarding gender equality in research and innovation, including different groups that deal with things like gender equality in the research career, gender balance in decision-making, the gender dimension in research and innovation, and some other things related with other things. Oh, the ministry also, with using this observatory and also using our women and science unit that we have in the ministry since many years, we have this second objective of producing documents that can be referenced for the research and innovation gender equality situation in Spain. So we have some reports that can be found in the web that are published biannually, normally. One is it's called Científicas en Cifras in Spanish, so it's the scientific women in data, so data for this. We have another one. This is something that we have an historic and a statistical series that is very interesting to follow, and it's very classical, and we can see how it evolves. Then maybe later we can talk about the evolution that is not that good in some things. The second thing that is interesting is women and innovation. That we have one edition of this document. The problem is data gathering, not only in Spain. I mean, it's very difficult to find good data for that. But also we have studies on the early career researchers in Spain, or the impact of the pandemic in the research on women researchers in Spain. The third pillar is in this work is that we want to make the research and innovation activity of women more visible. So we have also the cooperation with our Foundation for Science and Innovation, which is very related to scientific culture, and we have started a new web where we can publish and make visible the work made by women scientists and innovators in Spain, both for children but also for the society at large. So these are the three pillars that we are talking about, and this is my starting talk. So thank you very much, Gary. I hope I didn't take much time. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Teresa. And I think it's fantastic listening to you talk about the observatory and bringing together not just government, agencies, but civil society, researchers and the whole community. So it's great to see that kind of joined up approach to thinking about gender equality. Mm-hmm. I'm going to move us over to Bízková now to tell us a little bit more about kind of development at the member state level of the Czech Republic.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you for the invitation. And I have to say that we maybe all, but with Spanish colleague, we have similar problems and solutions too. So I will not repeat what she said, because we are discussing the same problems, and I hope that we will be able to find solutions together. At the beginning, what we are doing now in the Czech Republic, I have to say that we are not able to do anything if we are able now, because we have support of Center for Gender Research and Gender of the Institute of Sociology. Marcela Linková is from this institute, and how she said in her first speech, they are supported from national sources, and they are very, very important for us, because we are able to do quite a lot now on national level, maybe said, because we have this center. Without them, we are not able to do too much. Since 2020, maybe said during last 2 years, year and a half, about. We prepared two strategies, new strategies. It is new policy for research, development and innovation 2021 plus, and also strategy for equal opportunities. In both these materials, gender tasks are supported. It is not for the first time in the Czech Republic, but we hope that now it is more important than before, because we know quite a lot and about situation in the Czech Republic and are able to enforce some solutions. It is from a strategic point of view. From organizational one, we are in quite special situation in the Czech Republic, because we have Ministry of Education responsible for research and development on one side, and for innovation is Ministry of Industry and Trade is responsible. But greatest part of support and policy making in research and development agenda is for this agenda is responsible Council for Research, Development and Innovation, as I am member of this council. And what there is done, this is the most important thing. And I am very happy that for the first time in our history, 3 women are members of this council since the beginning of 2020. And we are responsible, 2 of us, me and my colleague, Professor Ulrichova from Olomouc University, we are responsible for gender tasks, maybe said. And we prepared with Center for Gender and Science, we prepared methodology for our funding bodies. Last year, it was approved by the council at the end of last year, and now we try to push to enforce this methodology, and we are very happy that we find very good answers from ministries and other supporting bodies. Now we prepare a new group for gender tasks under the Research, Development and Innovation Council. It was approved that it will be prepared. It was approved by the council at the end of June. So I hope since September we will have better possibility to support ministries and other bodies in this area. As regards the gender equality plans, now we are preparing them in many research institutions. At universities, it is easier because they have support from the Ministry of Education, and gender equality plans, gender audits are prepared now, and we think that it will be ready till the end of this year. In Academy of Science, it is 1/3 of our research. It is a little difficult because they don't have support now, but from operational program Jan Amos Komensky from the European funds, from Ministry of Education, will be supported also these activities, and so we hope that we will have prepared everything especially for Horizon Europe, but not only because we have possibilities in Horizon Europe, but because it is very important for the whole Czech Republic, because gender equality, from my point of view, is economic category. It is very important for the whole for prosperity of the whole society. Thank you.
Thank you for that kind of overview of what's happening in the Czech Republic. And I think your closing comment about economic prosperity and echoes what the Commissioner said earlier about the sustainability and the competitiveness of the European Commission, of the European Union, how important it is to think about gender equality in that. I was also really interested in you talking about the kind of methodology for funding agencies, and perhaps we'll return to that later. And tomorrow we have funding agencies talking about how they've integrated gender equality into their thinking around not just in terms of thinking, in terms of research design, but also kind of research performance as well. So it's very timely that you're thinking about that as well. Thank you for that. Moving on to our third speaker, we have Kathleen Vercauteren now, who will be talking to us about developments in Belgium. Kathleen.
Okay, thank you very much. A lot of things are already said, but Belgium is a little bit more special than the other countries because many policy decisions, such as diversity and gender equality, they are delegated to the communities and regions. And to generate statements on a national level, for example, questions on themes such as higher education, science, innovation, research, many parties need to collaborate. And in Belgium, that is done in an international cooperation commission that we call an ICC, in which all the entities with the specific competence are represented, and also some subject-based experts are invited to that commission. And since gender equality is high on the European agenda, in Belgium we have established an ICC especially on gender. It was in May of this year. And the ICC Gender Forum, they will generate more smoothly answers from Belgium for inquiries of standing working groups on gender in research and innovation, as well as questions of the GENDERACTION project groups if they have some questions about some gender issues. Another focus is to exchange good practices between all the stakeholders within Belgium and improve the policies at all levels. Especially for Flanders, a lot of measures started from bottom up, especially since we noticed that the gender inequality in academic staff was not very clear, and therefore we worked on a strategic action plan which was named Sustainable Gender Policy for Academic Personnel, to create equal opportunities for everyone to work in the best circumstances. And I will explain it in some other things. So that's the situation in Belgium from now on.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. It's interesting to talk about, again, the bottom-up approach, the states and regions having, being based in the United Kingdom. I understand that kind of difficulty. We have 4 devolved governments who make different decisions about things, but sometimes it's how we bring these things together, which is really interesting. And I think all the speakers have talked about, similar problems and similar solutions. So I think when we come to the part about mutual exchange and learning, it'll be really interesting to learn from each other about how we can address some of these issues. Thanks, Kathleen. And moving to our 4th speaker, Dia is going to be talking to us a little bit about kind of developments in Greece.
Thank you very much. In the 3 minutes that I have, I will try to give you a few an idea of what are the most important points in Greece's policy on gender equality in research and innovation. Unlike the other cases that I heard in the Czech Republic or in Spain or in Belgium, in Greece, we don't have any specific structures. We haven't set up any structures. And in fact, until about 2015-16, there was very little in terms of policy on gender equality in research and innovation. For the first time in 2016, the National Roadmap on Research and Innovation introduces gender equality as a goal, but that was it. There was nothing further done at the level of policy. Now, since 2018, there have been 2 important changes that have sort of advanced this area. First of all, in 2018, we introduced it in Greece a law on substantive equality, which is not about higher education or research and innovation specifically, but it's sort of cross-cutting, and it defines substantive equality as a key goal to be mainstreamed across all policies. I think this was very important because the whole notion of substantive equality underpins the entire logic also of gender equality policy in the European research area, including the gender equality plans as well. So this was very important in 2018, and in 2019, we established in Greece gender equality committees in all Greek universities, whose main responsibility is to develop gender equality plans. This was sort of as a side initiative. It wasn't central to the policy on education, higher education, or research and innovation, but just as a side initiative. So since last year, these gender equality committees have started to work to develop gender equality plans. I have the honor to sit in one of these committees through my other position as professor at Pantheon University of Social Sciences in Athens. So their work has started to acquire momentum over the past year in networking and trying to work on developing gender equality plans. At ELIAMEP, we do have a gender equality plan. It's the only research institute in Greece that has such a plan, and this is thanks to an EU-funded project, the Target project, which is funded, I think, around the same time as the Gender Action project. So, but we're still in the early phases of developing gender equality plans, and I see this is really the road, the path for any kind of change to advance gender equality in research, academia, and innovation. We're still in the early phases. The ground has been set, and the requirement in the new Horizon 2020 for applicant institutions to have gender equality plans in order to qualify for funding works as a powerful catalyst and accelerator. So this, I will also refer to this probably, I suppose this will be a point of discussion later on. So these are some of the developments, the most important developments in Greece. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dia. And I think you kind of encapsulated the kind of pivotal role that gender equality plans have in terms of progress and change in this area, and how institutions need to progress. We have some time for reflections from each of you about each other's discussion. And perhaps I can start, Dia, by posing that question about talking about funding and whether gender equality plans, you talked about as a catalyst for change by the conditionality of gender equality plans. How has that evolved in Greece? And is that, in your view, a good development, I suppose? And similar to other panelists, should there be funding requirements around gender equality when we look at research?
Do you mean if gender equality should be a criterion? A criteria,
yeah. From what I understood about what you said about the last bit in terms of funding, is that what you meant by as a criteria?
Yes, yes. It's in the new Horizon 2020. I suppose the rest of the speakers are aware of this, that having a gender equality plan for an institution is a precondition for being eligible to receive funding. This is a major change, I think, in the new structure of the Horizon 2020 for the next 5 years. And it raises, of course, a lot of opportunities, but it's also challenges, which, at least in the case of Greece, which is, I would say, in quotation marks, as a laggard, in promoting measures to advance gender equality in research and innovation. It comes together with a lot of challenges as to how, to what extent we will be able to meet this criterion, because there are, from what I see, there are qualitative characteristics that these gender equality plans must have in order to meet the standards that the European Commission sets. I would be happy to hear. I think Spain is from speaking with colleagues, Spain has done a lot of work with gender equality plans in universities.
If may I?
Yes, of course, please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I listen to Spain, and I. Okay, in Spain, I say the universities, for example, and also the public research organizations. Something like 93 of them, they have a unit for gender equality. It's not only for research in the case of universities, but also for academic issues. I mean, for students and so on. But this is very, very important, and some of them are they were funded years ago. Yeah, Spain also has has a lot of basic laws that are not only for research and innovation, but are applied to research and innovation. Things, for example, related with the parity. May I say parity? Yeah, in the research panel for selection of professors. Yesterday we were talking particularly in the observatory about this. Yeah, and for example, this is something that relates a lot of problems, because you need to find full professors in some areas where there are a few of them. So some of them, they are moving around the country as attending panels for selecting professors, for example, or researchers, and but particularly this is particularly difficult in higher levels. In the research funding offices, I mean, particularly the agency for research is the state agency for research. Is called this number. They are putting in place a system for defining this. And I think tomorrow they will talk about this in more detail when they go to in the conference tomorrow. But we have things that are common to all the policies in the country that are also applied very much in research and innovation.
Did you have your hand up there?
Thank you. We are not so far as in colleagues in Spain, but I hope that we will be. It is very, very interesting for us. What you said. I think that especially for Horizon Europe is necessary to have this gender equality plans, and in the Czech Republic it was the main impulse to start with this. I don't think that it is good to have it as an obligation. It's better to have something like advantage, that if you have this policy, if you have action plan, then it is better for you. And but it depends. But that's true that under this influence that for Horizon Europe, it will be necessary to have it for all these gender audits and preparation of plans started, and it is very, very useful. We will continue, yes, I hope later with this. What is the situation in different countries, and we are at the end in ranking in several areas of gender equalities, especially management, women in management of science. and so it is very helpful. Yes, we will support them very all these plans very strongly, and I hope that it will be very helpful for that we will be very that situation will be changing very quickly with this plan. So very good step. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. Kathleen,
I think, yes, I will just add something, because in Belgium, in Flanders especially, it's comparable to Spain. Every university has already a gender action plan. And that was initiated in 2030 by the Ministry of Education and also by the Minister of Social Affairs. So there are a lot of steps already made about gender equality in Belgium. So for us, it's a good thing that it's now also from the European Commission. It's a good thing for the implementation, and also the members of our policymakers boards. They are really aware about all those gender issues from the gender equality plan. So I think we have already made a lot of steps forwards, but it's a good thing that now also the European Commission give us the opportunity to explore and to establish the gender equality plans.
Thank you for that. Thank you for all your contributions about that. I have further questions about gender equality plans, but I'm conscious of time. So I'm going to move us on to the kind of second part of the discussion, which is about the kind of new topics and challenges that you think need to be addressed at a national policy level. And again, I'm inviting speakers to kind of briefly reflect on, emerging policy areas that you think require policy attention. We've talked, Marcella talked about in her opening speech earlier, gender-based violence, intersectionality, kind of structural issues, thinking about the kind of post-COVID world as well. So can I invite Teresa, first of all, to give us your reflections on the kind of new topics and challenges?
Yes, thank you, Gary. I can say that, I have stated some of the challenges that we have before, but what I think one of the main things that we have to do, and this is applicable to many other policies, but particularly to this one, is to show and to measure the impact of our policies. I mean, if we consider that this is a real policy that we want to do, years after, we have to measure and check, because this way we have to correct. Yeah, you know that I come also from the scientific world, so I try to say we measure, we act, and then we measure again to check if we have to close the loop and change. That for sure we will have to change, and the impact is very, very important to be measured. Yeah. And there are some things that are things that we want to do in these years. Of course, something that I have mentioned before, related with the topics, I say with the funding agencies that I mentioned before. For example, in our innovation agency that is called CDTI, that I have the honor to be the president of CDTI. We have a council every month where we approve the projects for the companies and innovation and things like that, and also for industrial R&D. And we measure every, we have a follow-up of the number of women, the type of degree they have, and that are participating in the projects that we are approving in every month. Yeah, so we have a follow-up of that. And in case we see that there's a lowering or something, we have to act, yeah, and ask for to the companies that to include, as I to have these research policies, because we want these equality policies, because it's easier to act or to intervene in the public system, but how can we do it in the private system? This is not that easy. Yeah, so and this is the main problem, I have to say. Yeah, and so we want to have this measures in the funding agencies, but also to measure afterwards what we are doing. In the research institutions, what we are starting now is to have a kind of an award certification of equality in the research institutions. Particularly, we have a big one that is called CSIC, that is the National Scientific Council, which has, one, maybe something like 1/3 maybe of the research in Spain is done under this institution, and CSIC is putting this in place. And so we want to see if this type of things that are very normal in other areas in terms of quality, in other terms, are really effective and provoke a change also inside the organizations that are the main thing. So for us, very important, measure the impact. So
thanks, Teresa. And yes, impact always very important when we think about science and research and innovation. And you talked about.
I can say something. It's difficult, as I it's important, but it's difficult and it's long term, which is very difficult for the policies. Yeah. So
yes, completely difficult. And I think earlier we talked about the kind of commissioner talked about it as well in terms of not just the quantitative but the qualitative impact as well. So thinking about all of that together. Rich, may I come to you and ask you your thoughts in terms of kind of challenges, new topics that you need to be addressed either at the kind of Czech Republic level or the EU level?
Yes, that's true that it is very important to measure how far we are from the goal. And I have one example from the Technology Agency of the Czech Republic. It is a funding body for applied industrial research. They have quite small program, Zeta, for young researchers. And there was very small incentive if for young researchers. If the team is led by women, then they have 2-3 points higher added to the whole evaluation. And it was very interesting. It was changed from about 20% at the beginning, groups or teams, research teams led by women, to 50% during 2 years. It is very interesting. So it is seen that it works if you have instruments how to support and you want to support. It is possible and it has results. But as I said in my previous speech, we have in the Czech Republic we have big problem with part of women researchers, because we are in all categories, we are on the last places in ranking in Europe. Professor Kustec at the beginning told us what is the percent of share of women in different parts of world and in different countries in Europe. And in the Czech Republic, we have only 26% of the whole amount of the researchers, women researchers. It is the whole number of researchers is rising during last 10 years. Also number of women, but percentage is the same or very similar, 28%. And that's why I thought that it is economic category, because in universities we have more than 50% of students, about 60% of the whole amount. And then as PhD students, half and half men and women are starting. When they finish, they are about women are less than men, but it is about half and half. But in research, we have only one fourth or less than 30% of women. As it was said from Spain, it is a problem in public sector, that's true, but the biggest problem is in private sector. We are able to support people in public sector, and as I said, we are able to support them, to measure. We have good response from all bodies in our society, but problem is in private sector, and it is necessary to discuss a lot and look for instruments in this area, because it is horrible. In the Czech Republic, it is only 13% of the whole amount of the whole number of researchers in private sector are women. So yes, this is in front of us, I think.
Thank you. I think, you know, you and Teresa talked about that kind of the private sector, and I guess one of the questions we can reflect on later is, I guess, the role of national governments in, I guess, intervening or changing private sector behavior around gender equality. But before we come to a series of questions, perhaps I can turn to Kathleen now for your thoughts.
Yes, okay, thank you. So as I already said, in Flanders, we have already many years of experience on the topic of gender equality. And because we want to fulfill our corporate social responsibility commitment by creating an inclusive work environment for all the staff members. And therefore, Flanders developed a diversity culture, and to create a positive organizational structures and working atmosphere where diversity contributes to quality and innovation and welcomes all the talents and offers equal opportunities to all its members. For example, I will give you some examples of that, how we did it. We introduced a communication plan in which systematic attention to gender diversity is given to all the things that we had to communicate about the universities. We create tools for and advice on gender-related topics in education and research. And all the things they had to improve they want to improve our diversity culture at our universities. Another topic is to create an inclusive recruitment policy in which everyone's talents are appreciated. We evaluate our job advertisements against diversity criteria, and not only for gender criteria, but also for cultural diversity, for disability, for philosophy of life, etc. And we want to create an open website informing current and future staff about the efforts that we made by the institutions. But nonetheless, this comfortable situation, all the entities who are used to apply for European framework funding are preparing themselves to comply fully for the Gender Action Plan as demanded by the European Commission. And another thing that we saw that studies have also show that in addition to increasing the accuracy and support of decision making, equal representation in policy boards and commissions enhance the visibility of role models from underrepresented groups. For example, no more in Flanders, no more of 66% of the voting members in the commissions can be of the same sex. And of course, the ultimate goal is a 50-50 representation. Another point of interest is to give attention to implicit bias. And therefore, we develop an implicit bias training program for staff members on gender diversity. And this program will be structurally embedded in the training for managers and supervisors, also from members of recruitment commissions. And last but not least, we saw that there was an uneven impact of the corona crisis on the research activity of academics. the COVID crisis negatively impacted the ability to conduct research for more than 70% of our academics, especially for the women. And therefore, we want to extend the period of employment due to COVID in such a way to avoid that negative impact on their career. Not only the university institutions will do that, but also the FWO, which is our research council. So that are some main of the major actions that we want to do in Flanders to after the new topics and challenges to on a policy level.
Thanks, Kathleen. You touched on similar things actually. So with Rick talking about quotas, I suppose, on decision-making bodies. In Rick's case, you're talking about the Czech Technology Agency of the Czech Republic, and and their kind of women-leading research roles. So really interesting to hear about developments there, about how you're going to build implicit bias into structural kind of embedded in your training programs. And of course, all of us are thinking about the uneven impact of coronavirus and what happens as we start to emerge from that. So really interesting topic for us to revisit. I shall revisit some of that after I come to Dia for some thoughts here, and then I'll come back to some questions after.
Thank you. It's very fruitful and interesting, I think, to hear what's happening in the other countries and sort of reflecting on one's own country. Well, especially to hear about countries like Belgium and in Flanders, where Kathleen described all these steps that have been taken to address implicit bias, to redress lack of gender balance and so on. I think in Greece, we're still sort of in the beginning of this process with gender equality plans. All these actions, I suppose, many of these are incorporated in gender equality plans. We're still in a very early stage in this process, and a major challenge here is thinking about how to make gender equality plans an opportunity for organizational change rather than another bureaucratic exercise or another bureaucratic hurdle that the European Commission places. In order to utilize this as an opportunity to bring about real change, there are some challenges in doing this, and above all, the lack of resources and the lack of gender expertise that are very essential in the process of developing and implementing gender equality plans, doing the whole process of gender audit, and then designing the actions, and then implementing and then monitoring the results, and continuing this along this process. The lack of dedicated resources is a major challenge, and I mean resources from the state, from the public sector and the Greek state, so and expertise as well. At ELIAMEP, we are looking into setting up some training programs, if we find funding, training programs to build the capacity of how you go about developing and implementing gender equality plans. Another challenge is, which I think I heard in the Spanish case, is collecting data and collecting evidence. That's another criterion for gender equality plans. That is also underlined by the European Commission. The lack of such data, but even more importantly, the lack of a habit, of a culture of collecting systematically this kind of data within each organizational entity, including universities and research institutions. So. I think this is a major challenge that we need to tackle. Thank you.
Thanks, Dia. I guess, we've talked quite a lot about gender equality plans and the kind of reflection on how, the European Commission requires it as part of the kind of future funding Horizon Europe. I guess a question for all of you, and also thinking about the data collection side of it. What role do you think national governments should have in, I guess, monitoring gender equality plans at a national level, about supporting the infrastructure around data collection? Is there a role for member states and national governments to play in this area, so that it's not just a supra level European Commission, but individual member states taking responsibility as well? Dia?
Yeah, the role of national governments is crucial, but of course it all boils down to political will. The issue of gender equality in general, and more specifically in research and innovation, is not a priority of governments, at least speaking of my country, not of the current government, or I think previous governments. I mean, it's not a matter necessarily of party. It's the role of EU-wide coordination, cooperation, and support through funding is all the more important.
Thank you. And the Ljubljana Declaration, or the draft of the Ljubljana Declaration, kind of moves us towards that, perhaps. Ruth, you had your hand up as well. So.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I think that two things are important and are possible. On one side, will of government, of course, and I think that if we see gender equality as economic category, that it is necessary to push government to have this will. And I think it is important on one side, and on the other side, how to collect data. I think that it is not so big problem if there is a will, because it is not only in the Czech Republic, it is for Eurostat. We have in our statistical office, we have every year statistics in the whole area of research is done from the side of statistical office, and they is based on Frascati manual and also on partially on Oslo manual, especially Frascati manual. And if we say that for our analysis of research area, because we want to measure results of our policy, that it is important, we can give it into this statistical report, and it is possible to collect data. And so it is this work of statistical offices is so large that one criterion, how many men and women you have in special branches, it is not so big problem. That's true that it is given in these reports, but it is not in this detail that we need. And maybe it is for next projects, maybe some task or on the European level, how to change or how to add these activities and these indicators to Frascati manual. I think that it is time to give it to take it into this manual, and then everything is given from my point of view. Thank you.
Kathleen?
Just one remark, because I want to stress that monitoring of data is the basis for setting policy priorities, and it's an important tool for the evaluation of and the adjustment of the chosen policy. So gaining insight into the career of staff members, applying at, advancing through, and leaving our institutions, that makes up an essential component in the development of our diversity policy. So I'm a fan of monitoring.
So am I. I think it's really important to have that data.
Yeah.
Teresa, would you like to come in here?
No, I mean, so I fully agree with you guys.
I guess my final question to all of you is, we've got a couple of minutes left, is, we've talked a lot about, the importance of that collective action across the EU, the kind of policy coordination, mutual learning and support at the EU level. I guess it's a reflection point for all of us, is to think about, what do you think the needs are for the future in terms of the era? What is it at the EU level we can all do? We talked about the kind of draft of the Vienna Declaration. It was interesting this morning, Marcella talked about the kind of important aspect of protecting young researchers from sexual harassment and sexual violence, and thinking about intersectionality. But are there topics that you think really need to be discussed at a kind of EU level that we would benefit from kind of cross-learning and mutual learning from each other? Perhaps in about half a minute each, because then we need to go to a break. So Teresa, seeing that you have your microphone on at the moment, would you like to start?
I didn't notice that. So thank you very much. I think the policy coordination is very, very important, particularly in a field like research and innovation, where there's a lot of mobility. I mean, and it's expected to have a lot of mobility, and particularly in Europe. And we have, this is something that the project, an action like Gender Action, is making a very good benefit for this coordination. So I have to say that I congratulate all the participants for that. I mean, because this is really important. On one hand, of course, the mutual learning is always interesting in all fields, yeah, but this one is particularly important. And something that Ruth has already mentioned, that is the way we measure, is another thing, because we need to have compliance with the data that we are using, particularly in the European Union. Yeah, so this is another very important thing. And the mutual the learning that we can, the lessons learned that we may have in Spain or in Flanders or in Greece or in the Czech Republic, we can share a lot of information that is taken. How did you do it? Yeah. In the issue related with the sexual harassment, that is something that I have to say that is a very worrying issue, yeah, in the field of in all the issues, but particularly here, particularly in places where there are few women and particularly with this intersectional issue, because it's not only a question of men and women, but also other issues in power and and this thing, and particularly with the hierarchical type of organizations that we have in science, and particularly in the in Spain we have a campaign for that, to prevent this, and it's called the Charter on Zero Tolerance and for the research public organization. So we have some surveys that we have stated with young researchers particularly, and there are some, the reality, as there's no zero issue, but we have to go to a zero tolerance policy. So I think this is very relevant also for for the nice organizations, to be nicer in the organizations, but also to avoid the dropout, in particularly in those places where there's no parity in numbers.
Thank you, Teresa. And I think that zero tolerance charter is really important. And I know there's lots of work going on in Sweden about thinking in terms of how they will approach this in a national survey. In the UK, we've been thinking about whether sexual harassment and sexual violence should be a condition of registration for universities, so kind of a regulatory approach as well. Ruth, Dia, and Kathleen, I'm going to ask you for a minute each if possible.
Yes, I've run
over time slightly.
Very short. So Only one evidence why we need European standards for gender equality. From my previous career, I was responsible for environmental policy at the Ministry of Environment when we accessed the European Union, and I have to say that under because we accepted European standards for quality of environment, our environment improved very quickly. So this is the reason why we need also European standards for gender equality, because if we have them and we push ourselves to use them, then our situation will be improved very quickly. And we need it because, for example, in IT sector, it is written in digital agenda of the European Commission. We need 1.5 million IT specialists, new specialists for digitalization, and the only reservoir are women. So if we want to use this reservoir, then we need to do something. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen and the very short interventions.
Yes, a short intervention. I will give you some 3 ideas to improve the gender balance. First of all, create a gender diversity officer at a different institution beside a CEO or a CFO, and that the gender diversity officer can be a role that can be filled by individuals who received a specific training in recognizing and counteracting implicit bias, and who have the mandate to alert the chairman and the committee members during assessment procedures. Second, create more financial support for coaching young academic personnel. Offer individual coaching for female postdocs, but not only coaching, but we also need more funding for research on gender topics. And third, that's a final challenge that I will give to you. Figure out if it is legal to create positions where only women can candidate for, especially in jobs where women belongs to an underrepresented group, and encourage women to apply for those jobs. Such a search committee or something like that can identify suitable external or internal candidates. So it would be great if the European Commission opens a legal way to introduce vacancies where only women can apply for on a legal way. So thank you.
Thank you. Interesting challenge on the legality of women-only positions. Dia, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, just a final thought. I'll just pick up from what Kathleen said. These are great suggestions, but that's precisely where I'd like to raise a point of concern as well. Of course, I'm all in for, policy coordination and, common European standards and so forth, because these are very important sources of change at the national level. But precisely there, when I said earlier, the lack of resources, for instance, for having a designated person, a gender equality person in an institution, which means, shifting resources or making available resources, that's precisely what is lacking in my country, which makes me concerned that these gender equality plans that are now requirements for us to seek funding, there is a risk, I just want to raise that there is a risk that they might widen the gap between North and South in research and innovation. It's just a concern, and of course, we have to go for full-fledged gender equality plans in any case. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think you talked about it earlier in terms of making sure that not I think you used the word laggards earlier, but how do we bring the community together and make sure that we're not creating inadvertent consequences or in terms of some of these changes. We have run over time. That's down to my poor moderation, I'm afraid. So, but thank you very much to all of you for joining us. Teresa, Dia, Kathleen, thank you for joining, for taking the time this morning. We're now going to go into a break. You have about 7 minutes for the break, and I apologize to our audience for that. And then we will return at 11:40 Central European Time for a short video and the next panel session. My speakers, thank you very much for this morning.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Thank you.